In this video, I'm going to introduce TechSuite and Kabuto and demonstrate how you use them and how they serve you. Let's start with TechSuite, which is our computer repair toolkit. TechSuite is a collection of these three items down here: TechWaru, TechUSB, and TechPortal. Let's talk about TechWaru first, which stands for Tech Windows Automated Repair Utility. TechWaru is a lightweight and portable Windows application that you run on customers' machines and delete afterwards. It's about 17 megabytes in and of itself, but it has access to over 300 different tools, and these tools are all perfectly legal to use commercially. They're open source or free, or in some cases they're included in TechWaru, proprietary tools. I've got TechWaru on this desktop right here, and I would have gotten it here either by bringing it with me on a flash drive or going to my TechPortal, my account page, and downloading it. I can download as many instances of TechWaru as I want and run as many at a time as I want. So I'm going to open up TechWaru here. It's going to check for updates and check my authentication information, and then I'll be faced with a welcome screen. And this is where I can put in information about my customer. Let's call him Sam. And I already have a ticket number set up for Sam, we'll pretend. 230. When I hit continue here, I'll be taken to the Tools tab, and this is TechWaru in a nutshell. The Tools tab is broken up into these three different sections: Category, Tools, and Queue. Whatever is in this queue here is going to get downloaded and run automatically when I hit run. I can remove things from the queue by double-clicking them, add things to the queue by going over to the Tools section, double-clicking them here, or using these arrows. And I can look at the different tools by going over to the Categories section and choosing different categories. I can also search for tools because there are a lot. I'll double-click this and add it to the queue. So you can build presets when you're planning ahead for specific use cases with TechWaru. These presets down here, from RepairTech tune-up preset on down, come default with TechWaru. These are presets that we've built. They're all aptly titled, and they're a good starting place to take a look at what a preset might do for you. These queues can be as long as you want them to be. I'm going to load up this demo preset, which I've made beforehand. That's what we saw at the very beginning, and run this very short queue just to get a sense of what that looks like. So right now TechWaru is going and downloading each of these tools and running them in succession. And when it's finished, it's going to generate a report for us to look at, telling us everything TechWaru just did. And it's going to start uploading this report online so that we have it banked there. All the tools that TechWaru downloads, it puts them into this assets folder, which it will generate. So the idea is you can run TechWaru, and when you're finished with the repair, you can just delete these two items off your customer's computer, packing out what you just packed in. You can also run queues ahead of time on a shop computer and get all those tools ready in the assets folder and take those with you on a USB drive, and that way you'll be prepared for offline repairs. So we can look at this report that I just made here. We can open it up in a default browser. At the top left here, we'll see my custom branding. This is just something I put together in MS Paint for my fake computer repair shop. We'll see the customer's name and ticket number that I put in at the beginning, my name, the date, the number of tools ran, and the time it took to run the queue. And these blue items here are just basic information about the computer. We have some basic alerts as well. And what follows that is a comprehensive list of the tools that we ran and what they found and did. Most of the tools in TechWaru are completely automated, but some of them are not. These tools have an asterisk right here, which means that at some point I'm going to have to manually interact with this tool to get things to move along. This is mainly for legal reasons. We can't build automation for specific tools. I can drag and drop these tools to the top so that when I hit run, I can get all the clicking out of the way, and when that's finished, TechWire will go through the rest of these fully automated. So a note about the presets that I mentioned. I can build up new presets by adding various tools to the queue and then saving that new preset. And then I'll be able to load it later. So that's the tools page. That's the basics of how to use TechWire. I'm going to just skip over these other tabs in the middle here, although I'll point out that TechWire comes with a migration tool that can back up, migrate, and restore. But really I want to talk about a few things in options over here. First off, the config file. The config file is how you standardize the way you run TechWire. So back here, if I was making a bunch of presets, I would be able to see them in load, but I'd want to make sure that in future copies of TechWire, when I download fresh new copies, I would also have access to those presets. So I would want to be sure to go to Application and hit Export Config File to TechPortal to export that config file. And I can also do that here in Options, of course. So that way when I download a new copy of TechWire, I can import that same config file, and that will bring in all the settings changes, all the presets and stuff that I had made beforehand. Down here in Custom Applications, I can add tools that aren't already included in TechWire to my queues. So in this case, I've added Sophos Virus Removal Tool, and I'll just go through the motions of adding a custom application. So when I'm adding a new tool, I'll have to give it a name and instruct TechWire where to get it from. So in this case, I'll have TechWire download it from the internet, but I could also tell TechWire to look through the assets folder and find it there. Here I'll have to provide TechWire with a direct link to the application. This happens to be an exe file extension, but this could be an MSI or BAT file, it's fine. And when I hit next, TechWire will check that URL online. And when this is finished, we will be able to provide TechWire with instructions of how to run this tool and when and where we want it to be run. So I'll have TechWire download a fresh copy of the application every time in case there's any updates. And I'll put this tool into the anti-malware category. Here is where I could put in any command line parameters that the tool could accept, something that might look like this. And I can also have TechWire randomize the application name every time it runs it. I'll have to specify what operating systems the application is going to work on. Ditto for architectures. Does the application require user interaction? In this case, yes. And these last two fields are for the purposes of getting the log file that the tool will generate and getting all that information into our reports at the end. So once I'm finished with that, I'll just hit Save New App, and then I'll be able to see that custom applications here, and of course back here in the Tools tab in whichever category I specified. In malware automation settings, I can specify what each of these anti-malware tools will do if and when they're run. So I'll talk about RepairTech because it has all three of these options, but not all of these tools do. So if delete and quit is selected in RepairTech, that means that every time I run RepairTech in a queue, it's going to scan, delete everything it thinks is malware, and then quit. It's what you might expect out of automation software. If I want RepairTech to simply scan and then stay open so that I have a chance to review everything it thinks is malware and manually remove things, I'll select Scan and Hold. Scan and Quit is exactly what it sounds like. It's not completely useless, however. In all three of these cases, all this information is getting into our report at the end. So that was a quick look at TechWaru. Now I'd like to talk about TechUSB. And TechUSB is another piece of software that runs tools automatically for you. But TechUSB is different than TechWaru in that it has a completely different set of tools because it runs in its own bootable Linux environment. And I'll be using a series of screenshots just to talk about it because right now I want to stay in this environment. This is what you'll see when you boot into TechUSB. And this guy right here is the TechUSB Automator, which is the application that we develop and the main application in TechUSB. In order to have gotten to this point, I would have downloaded the TechUSB creator. I've got it right here. And I'll simply stick in a USB drive over 2 GB in size, select whichever drive I put that into, and then hit Create. And from that point, the creation process will take a few minutes, and then I'll have a TechUSB. I can also add custom ISOs to the TechUSB boot menu. Say if I want to bring Hirons with me, I can do that and have everything in that USB drive. I can also add a copy of TechWaru to the USB drive. So the Automator is very simple and easy to use. Just like TechWaru, I can put in a customer's name and ticket number. And from that point, I just check which of these tools or tests I'd like to run, and then hit Run. I'll see something like this while the tests are running. And then when the Automator is finished, I'll get a report similar to TechWaru's reports. These tests and tools all have pretty clear descriptions of what they do. I'll just point out a few quick things. If I hit Config here next to the memory test, I can select exactly how many memory tests I'd like to run, 17 being the maximum. HDD Smart and HDD Block are meant to be used together. If I selected both of these and ran the TechUSB Automator, if HDD Smart failed, then HDD Block wouldn't run, even if it was checked. If I hit Config here in HDD Block, I can select how many bad blocks it's going to pick up before it stops running. And I can go online and get other Linux tools that I'd like to use and keep them in TechUSB by enabling persistence. So when I first boot into TechUSB, I'll have the option to put some memory aside and enable persistence that way. And that's TechUSB in a nutshell. I'll move on to TechPortal. TechPortal is your accounts page. It's where you go to get the TechUSB creator and copies of TechWaru. And you can do a few interesting things in TechPortal besides basic account management stuff. In the dashboard, you'll find your bench. And the bench is great for getting a glance at just what's going on in your account at the moment. The bench will include all instances of TechWaru that are currently being run or that have recently been run. So right here in my bench, we see this copy of TechWaru that I was just playing around with, its status, the tech that's using it, and the customer's name. If I were running a queue, I'd see a little progress bar here detailing how far along in the queue it was. I can also hit Activate Remote Access to launch a custom executable of my choice through TechWaru. So I can set up a RMM executable and remote into the computer at will that way. I'll skip over the Getting Started page, and I've already shown you the Downloads page. So let's go to Reports. Reports will have all the reports that have been uploaded to TechPortal, either from TechUSB or TechWaru. So if I hit View Report here, we'll see the report that I made just a few minutes ago. Now I can look at the contents of this report, that is the queue, in a different way. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll view this same report or queue in this customer-facing layout. So right now we're looking at the same thing that I did, but importantly, the metrics on the top right aren't present in this layout, and this layout is also a lot shorter. So in this case, these metrics might not be something that I wanted to show to Sam, might not be totally appropriate for him to see. And this is also just far too long to say print out and give to him. But this customer-facing layout I've kind of made to be more appropriate for that. And I'll show you how I made that layout. I just very simply went to Settings, Report Settings, gave this layout a name, and then I checked what I wanted to show up in the report and unchecked what I didn't want to show up there. And from that point on, I could view all of my reports in that layout. In Settings Custom Branding, I can white label TechWaru. I can change the logo. I can change the title bar text, and I can change the URL that I get directed to when I click on the logo. In Settings Integrations, I can set up an integration with any of these CRMs. So if I use RepairShopper, I can make sure that all of my forwarded reports all of my uploaded reports, get forwarded to RepairShopper, so I can keep everything in one place, as is the goal of CRMs. I can also use a webhook to have all of my reports forwarded to, say, my Google Drive or Dropbox. That's integrations. In Configure TechWaru, I can remotely change the way that TechWaru is going to behave. So this is essentially editing my config file that I talked about earlier. So these items I'm skipping over here can all be changed in TechWaru. I can also alter them here. However, it's only here that I can make a startup password if for whatever reason I wanted to leave TechWaru on the machine, but make sure that the customer, my client, couldn't open up TechWaru and accidentally run something like combo fix on himself. I can make a startup password. This is where I can also upload the executable that I mentioned. I can have this executable run every time TechWaru runs. And I can also, by way of my bench, activate it on demand. And down here, I'll be able to see all of the presets and custom applications that have been added to my account. If a tech in my account doesn't have this preset already, I can distribute that to him or her, share my presets that way. And that is TechPortal in a nutshell. So at this point, I've gone over an overview of everything in TechSuite: TechWaru, TechUSB, and TechPortal. So now I'll shift gears and talk about Kabuto. And Kabuto is very different than TechSuite. It's not automation software, and it doesn't, strictly speaking, help you repair computers faster. Kabuto is something more before and after repairs. Fundamentally, Kabuto works to do this, to bring customers back to your repair shop. Kabuto is an application that you install on your customers' machines that lets them know when they have a serious problem with their computer. Kabuto picks up something, it will issue an alert in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that'll look something like this, only with your custom branding at the top and bottom, and an opportunity for them to request service from you. So in this way, it's sort of like a smart business card, something that your customers are presented with right when they need it. So let's say I've installed Kabuto on Sam's computer, and let's say he gets one of these pop-ups. He can left-click Request Service, and he'll see a window that looks like this. He can type in his name, his phone number, his email address, and then type in some information about what he'd like from you, or what have you. And then once he requests a call, I'll be able to see that request in my Kabuto dashboard, which I've just switched over to, in the Request tab right here. And I'll also get an email notification about this. So if I go to my devices page, I'll be able to locate Sam's Kabuto. In this case, I've given it the name Demo, and look at some information. So I can go to Settings to adjust when Kabuto is going to issue a pop-up. And these are called triggers. So I can activate or deactivate any of these triggers. In this case, Kabuto is just going to look out to make sure that the antivirus is installed, that the hard drive's fine, and that the firewall is enabled. So if any three of these things aren't true, Kabuto will give Sam a pop-up. A bit about the way Kabuto works. It checks in once every 6 hours for these triggers like I mentioned. It'll check for any updates, and if there are any updates to Kabuto, it'll update silently. And it'll look for other settings changes that you make from your dashboard. In Settings Branding, this is where I can make custom branding to Kabuto, make it look like mine. We see Kabuto down here, and it looks like this because I've made the branding icon this. I can also upload the branding logo right here. Kabuto is just going to sit in the system tray and look like this until something goes wrong. There's a couple integrations for Kabuto. You can integrate it with RepairShopper, so that way every service request that you get from your customers goes into RepairShopper as a lead. You can also set up a remote access integration. So you can have your customers right-click Kabuto and click on whatever you select this to be to launch an RMM agent or executable of your choice. I've got nothing uploaded at the moment. In the activity page, I can just see some basic information about what's going on with the devices in my account. So we have recent events right here, unsynced devices. These might be computers that haven't been turned on in a really long time, so I might consider removing those from my plan. And I can see some basic metrics down here about the most common operating systems my customers have and the most common alerts they're getting. So everything I've gone over right now is the basic functionality of Kabuto. The cost for everything I've just gone over is going to range from 4 cents per month per device up to 15 or so cents per month per device. We have add-ons for Kabuto. Right now, monitoring is the only available add-on. Monitoring will allow me to take a look at the status of these trigger-related items. Whereas before, in this case, Connor, if Connor receives a pop-up, he can choose whether to contact me or not. But with monitoring enabled, I definitely know if something's going wrong. So in this case, he doesn't have an antivirus installed. And I will have gotten an email notification about that as soon as this light changed from green to red. And I can also view some details if that's appropriate. So for instance, in the device manager, if this was read and there was a problem, I'd be able to view it and take a look at the exact device ID. Managed antivirus with MCSoft is coming very soon. Managed antivirus will be about $2 per month per device, and monitoring is 50 cents per month per device. Okay, so that's a quick breakdown of Kabuto and what it looks like and how it works. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at support@repairtechsolutions.com. Thanks. Bye.